Hi, folks. I was going through some old messages. I was trying to make space on my iCloud, and I found some things. I think like what can tend to happen as we move like progressively through states of this Kundalini journey, or any kind of spiritual emergency for that matter. I think like I remember being in the States and being like, I will never forget what this feels like because this is so fucking intense, like beyond what I even imagined was possible to experience. Like, I know you know what I'm talking about if you're in it. And yet, as time has progressed and at a very slow geological pace, I have, transmuted some of the earlier traumatic states and entered into, what seems to be for now more stability. I have forgotten. I won't say I've forgotten entirely, but the sort of really charged terror of the trigger of some of those states has it just doesn't enter my consciousness that often, right? So like someone was talking to me about like state specific memory and how once you're out of it, you remember it, but it's like a distant kind of it's not something that you're able to really access except in like a sort of compartmentalized part of your brain. But I think when we're in it, we can feel like, okay, this is forever. I can't imagine being out of it. And when I'm out of it, I can't imagine forgetting about it. And so I'm here almost like in a quandary about the fact that like, how did I arrive at this place where I'm no longer having those traumatic experiences at the intensity of what they were, and I'm not even thinking about them. I'm thinking about life. So here's what I said. Hi, Chris. Today I was in a state of emergency. I wanted to end it because I got so dysregulated that I couldn't take another minute of this suffering. I have been trembling visibly all day, feeling utterly hopeless. I scare myself so much when the pain is this great because the urge to die is so significant, and I'm afraid I might do something to harm myself. I wondered if you had any words for me. And I bring this up because I remember being in this state and being like, there's no way I could ever forget this because it was so far beyond anything I had ever experienced in my previous life. Like, this was terror magnified times 1,000. And I know if you're experiencing this or you've been through this, you know what I'm talking about. It's literally indescribable. It's unbelievable. It's unfathomable what we can experience. And so I bring this up because I want to give hope to people who are having this hopelessness, this feeling of like, I can't imagine that I could possibly get beyond this. I think when we're in it, I've often felt that my Kundalini process was the worst Kundalini process anyone's ever been through. And yet I've heard other people say that, like, no, but nobody's was like this. Nobody's has been like mine. And I just, so I want to validate the very realness of that experience of feeling like yours is the worst. Um, and also highlight that kind of comes with the experience, I think, is to feel like yours is the worst, because I think it brings out this sense of like, I am so isolated, I am so alone, I am so much worse than anyone could ever imagine, and therefore like I want to die. Like, I'm going to be one of the ones that doesn't make it, right? So I remember distinctly feeling like I could never recover from this. And even though, I'm still in process and things are not perfect, but I'm not in this state anymore. So highlighting this because the level of vulnerability and desperation we can get to in these states can lead us to grasp onto things that are not helpful. So here's what I found helpful for me was to find one teacher who had been through this, somebody who had been through this. It doesn't have to be a teacher. For me, Craig Holiday helped me so much. I knew he had been through what I had been through, and I knew he had gotten through what I had gotten through, what I was going through. And I would ask him a question in satsang, and he would answer it. And I tell you, I would listen to it 16 times a day, the same clip over and over and over. And it would be something as literal as simple as him saying, you will get through this. It feels like you won't. You will get through this. Healing happens. It was like I almost had to hear it on repeat. So just to allow yourself to just cling to something like that, some small example, or some small, it could be a video like this of somebody who's been through it, who is shining light from the other side, who's, you know, an example of what happens when the healing does occur. Because it's so easy to become attached to these teachers. We become so vulnerable, and it breaks my heart that we become so vulnerable and desperate that we can attach ourselves to these teachers that they have no business trying to help someone in as complicated a process as is the Kundalini process. I hope this makes sense. I don't quite know if I've demonstrated a point, but I wanted to just like I wanted to take a moment and remember how absolutely vulnerable I was, how absolutely, this was a time where I couldn't drive. I couldn't see through my own eyes. I had to have my dad drive me around. I was terrified of everything I looked at. Looked like an amorphous shape of like doom. Yeah. So anyway, that's all I'll say for now. But surrounding yourself with people who are going to keep you safe and who are going to love you, and not a community. Basically, I'm trying to not to hawk our community, but really I'm hawking our community, because I don't think that there's any safer space that's been created for people going through this process, where we can just together come up with the resources that are helpful, together share in our terror, together know we're going to be okay. And then when one of us is having the day or the week or the month where we feel like we are absolutely dying and there's no hope for us, we have 20, 30, 50 other people who can know and hold us in that space without promoting their agenda, without promoting their point of view, or their whatever ascended masters coming through them and telling them information about you. It's like, this process is about us becoming our own guru. That's why it is so painful, because all of that is burning away. That's why we feel so scared. That's why we feel so vulnerable. It often happens to people who are haven't had that sense of a really secure self developed in their lives, so that we have habitually potentially been grasping for answers outside of ourselves. So it's particularly scary, because if that's taken away, then we're left with just the terror that caused us to do that in the first place. And with a community, you're no longer alone in it. You have the nervous system of a group of people to call on. You have the wisdom of a group of people to call on. You don't have anyone who's going to tell you what it's meant to be for you. You have a holding environment where you can feel safe enough to let the process happen. And that's all I got to say. And just my heart goes out to anyone who's feeling like they're not going to make it, like they're not going to survive. Know that I have been there, utterly desperate. I cannot even put words to it. And I'm here making a video for you reluctantly, because I don't want to be on YouTube. I don't want to be talking about this, but I can't not do it when I know that people are suffering and they're being led astray. So I'm going to put a link down there to our community, and just drop in and say hi. You owe it to yourself to not go through this alone and not be led astray by people who literally don't understand what this is about. So I love you all, and that's all for now.